Yo, what's up, chefs? It's Vinny, and in today's video, we're taking a look at a bunch of unreleased skill and support gems. And a lot of these have me super excited, especially some of the minion related ones, and even some stuff that makes it seem like the druid is confirmed getting a wolf or werewolf type form. Now, I know that some of these were briefly teased or showcased at some point or another, like the Roa mount or the Storm Spear, and maybe you've already seen more of them than I have, but personally, I didn't get to watch all of the alpha playtest footage, so the vast majority of these are news to me. It also goes without saying that all of these are likely subject to change, and although I'd like to think that since they're already in the database, that maybe we could expect all of them in 0.2, but that's probably just complete copium. Either way though, I just wanted to take this opportunity to go through them with you guys and build some hype for the upcoming league for POE 2. Starting off with the gems up here at the top left, we have a bunch of very placeholder-esque looking gems related to axes. So we've got an axe chop, axe execute, heavy cleave, leaping chop, raised chop, slash, whirling slash, which looks like it's going to be some sort of AoE bleed. Then we even have cast on melee stun coming to the game. Like I said, these are probably subject to change, but assuming that that stays the same, gaining 1,000 energy per enemy power when you heavy stun. I mean, that's going to be 20,000 energy if you heavy stun a unique monster. Maybe it's just not possible to heavy stun a unique monster. I don't know for sure. But that seems like a ridiculous amount of energy, so there's probably some crazy stuff you could do with this if the numbers stay the same. We've got a leaping axe catch. Actually, funnily enough, it says leap catch question mark profit for the little description down there. It's quite funny. Got a shielding cry. Performs a war cry empowering subsequent shield attacks if there are enemies nearby. Consumes all endurance charges to empower additional attacks. Powered shield skills perform a counterattack on hit or block, consuming 1 empower. Seems like a pretty interesting skill, if you're trying to do a shield build. Seems like some interesting stuff could be made of that. We've got Spinning Inferno, which is going to be a mace skill. Looks like it's going to be kind of like a whirlwind, but, fire damage, or 70% of your physical damage is going to be converted to fire. Definitely seems like it'll probably look very cool. Hopefully it ends up being effective as well. We've got Spinning Throw, which is, axes apparently. Seems interesting. And then we've even got Spiral Throw. All it says is throw spirally, once again for axes and two-hand axes. Moving on to the middle section, this is where we have a lot of the Huntress related stuff as far as what's available here on the website. We've got Blazing Lance. This, from my reading, it looks like you're going to throw 2 spears back to back with 1 use of the skill. First one's going to go through, pierce targets. It's going to leave a trail of fire. The second one is going to come through and split the trail of fire and make it bigger. And then it's just going to do a lot of fire damage over time afterwards. Definitely seems pretty cool. I like the idea that the Huntress is going to be getting, elemental attacks to go along with the, spear archetype. I think that's going to end up being a very flashy and fun to play archetype. Up next, we have a support. Infusion. Supported skills have 30% more buff effect. Pretty boring, but, probably going to end up being quite useful. Chance to freeze. Increased chance to freeze. Nothing crazy there. We have Claw Rake, so this is going to be a claw skill. Requires claws. Perform 2 upward slashes, causing massive claw marks in the ground. It's going to have a high knockback distance, which is interesting, and it's going to guarantee to knock enemies back when done. Seems pretty cool. Excited for claws for sure. Got Deadly Herald. This one seems very weird. I'm not even sure I fully understand it. I'd probably have to try it in game, but it basically sounds like it's going to make your heralds no longer be a persistent buff, and instead it's going to make the herald do more damage. I don't really know what that means. If you have cast on, or not cast, ice herald or herald of ice, how, if it's not a buff, how is it going to proc? You're going to have to use it manually. I could be completely brain farting here, but that's just kind of the way it reads to me. Seems interesting. We have Detonate Minion. Of course, we already have Detonate Dead, but now we're going to be getting Detonate Minion as well. Seems pretty cool. Maybe you can make something work here with SRS, Summon Raging Spirits. It actually does say it's an AoE fire spell, which of course, SRS, Summon Raging Spirits, summons Raging Spirits when you use a fire spell, so I'm kind of curious to see how that interaction would work. Maybe you explode, like you drop a flame wall, summon spirits, explode a spirit that summons more spirits. Curious to see how that would end up working. Evasive Strike, this is going to be another claw attack. Leap back before dashing forward, taking out enemies in a path. Pretty basic, boring, or, there's not a lot of information there, of course. Obviously, a placeholder image. Got Fusillade. There's going to be a support gem. Supported skills fire an arrow upwards, which then hits the ground. Supported skills fire 4 additional projectiles. This kind of reminds me of, I can't remember the skill name right now for some reason, but in POE 1, you shoot up in the air. It's like Plague Spores or something. It's a very popular bow skill. Does poison damage. You shoot up in the air. It drops a bunch of poison plants on the ground. It kind of just reminds me of that, even though I'm sure, since this is a support gem, you can make it work with a bunch of different skills. Seems pretty cool. Up next, we have another Huntress skill, Ice Spear. Throw an icy copy of your spear that deals cold damage. After a short distance, it arms, massively boosting its damage. When the spear breaks against an enemy, it deals damage in a cone-shaped area behind them. Seems pretty similar to Ice Shot, to be honest, from the Ranger, the bow skill, but just for spears. We have Rapid Assault. This seems like it's going to be a little melee, stab, 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 super quick type of effect. Sounds pretty basic, but could be cool. Spear Mine, there's no real information here. Not at all. I don't have the slightest clue on what this would really end up being like. Obviously, we have mine skills in POE 1, and surely they're going to bring mines into POE 2, I can only imagine. I don't know what a spear mine is going to look like, though. Maybe, you put a mine on the ground, and when someone walks over it, or when you detonate it, it, pokes a spear up to the ground. Who knows? Up next, we have Sandstorm Swipe. This is Blade Storm, but with spears. Sounds super cool. It's going to be like an AoE spear attack. Could be very interesting. We have Impale, which is actually a movement skill. Jump back from a target, dealing melee damage and attempting to pin them. Cannot be performed without targeting an enemy. Probably something that's not going to get used too much, but I could be completely wrong about that. Sounds interesting. There's a couple of ranger skills like this, or bow skills, where you leap backwards. Hard to say for sure until we get our hands on it. Infusing Strike. There's no description here, but based on the fact that this is an AoE melee strike, Lightning Cold Fire, this reminds me of another skill in POE 1. Let me actually go figure out the name of it really quick. Yep, here it is, Elemental Hit. This is one it kind of reminds me of. Skill back in POE 1 where it uses a random element, and I believe there was a way that you could force it to use a certain element. There's some pretty interesting builds with it. I don't think I ever played any of them, but it was just a very interesting idea for a skill. It's kind of just what this one reminds me of, since it does, the image, if I can find it again really quick, Infusing Strike. The image has all 3 elements up there, so seems like this one can be pretty cool. Once again, playing into that elemental archetype for the Huntress, since this is going to be a spear skill, of course. Next we have Storm Surge, another elemental sounding Huntress skill. No description. Based on the title or the name of the skill, it sounds like you're going to be dashing to enemies with some sort of lightning effect, so it could be quite nice. After that, we have Puncture. This looks like it's going to be kind of a dash skill. You're going to be able to leap to your enemies, go from pack to pack more quickly. Could be pretty nice. Spear Vortex. This could be a couple of things. This makes it, I would assume that this is not going to be another Blade Storm-esque or Whirlwind-esque skill. This would be more like Tornado Shot, perhaps. Obviously, with no description, there's no real way to know, but that's just kind of the vibe I get, since we do already have Sandstorm Swipe, which is Blade Storm with spears, and then later we're going to have Whirling Slash. So I'm assuming this is going to be more like Tornado Shot. Up next, we have Spearfield. I think this one was teased in one of the alpha playtests, but I'm not positive. But sounds like you're just going to have a bunch of spears come up from the ground. When enemies touch them, they're going to explode. Hard to say if this will be really useful. Sounds kind of cool conceptually, but doesn't give me the impression that it's going to be a very highly used skill for most builds. Up next, we have Storm Spear. Lightning damage and shock. It's always been very powerful, so I imagine this skill will be a popular one. This one and Blazing Lance actually seem really cool to me. But ultimately, throw a single copy of your spear when it hits an enemy at burst, firing bolts of lightning at multiple other enemies within a large area around it. Similar to lightning arrow, not arrow. Similar to lightning arrow, not quite the same, but seems very, very similar. And then, of course, we have the summon row amount. This one was definitely teased. Looks like it's going to have a 50 spirit reservation. The description is like a horse, but a bird, apparently. So supposedly the Huntress is going to be getting some sort of mount, which to me seems very odd, but cool at the same time. I'm curious to see how fast it's going to be. Because compared to like the rest of the cast of characters that don't have, without Temporalis and Blink, that don't have like a large variety of movement options to choose from. If the Huntress just gets a really fast mount, I'm curious to see what that's going to do. If Huntress is just going to be the best like map clearing character by a mile, or how that's going to work. But definitely very cool. I'm excited to see mounts in ARPGs. Up next, we have Whirling Slash. Perform a circular slash that kicks up a spinning storm of wind and dust. I believe this is the one, using this attack again in the storm adds one stage to the storm. There's probably multiple examples of skills like this in games. There's probably even one in POE 1 that I can't think of, but this just reminds me of Last Epoch. The Druid, or like the wild person or whatever, that class, they have an ability called Maelstrom, which is very, very similar to this. Basically, you stack it up, you get multiple stages. As you get more stages, the storm gets bigger, does more damage. You just run around and it melts things around you. Very, very fun to play in Last Epoch. Hopefully this provides the same experience. Up next, we have some of the Minion related stuff, starting off with an absolute classic and a banger. We have Spectre, which I'm sure a lot of people already expected this to come to PoE 2. It may have even been confirmed by the developers, but here it actually is on the database. Hopefully we get this in 0.2. For those of you that don't know, in PoE 1, Spectre was a minion skill. It allowed you to choose an enemy NPC, at basically any point throughout the game. You choose one, and then you're allowed to summon spectral images of that enemy NPC. They go around with you, they fight. There were like better ones and worse ones. I haven't done any research on what, the good specters are likely to be in PoE 2. But this is just a super fun skill, adds a ton of customization options as a minion build. Just very, very fun. Definitely a fan favorite. Glad to see it's coming. We have cast when stunned. There's just gonna be another cast on type of ability. I'm not gonna spend too much time on these. You probably get the gist of them just from the the name of the skill. We have cast while channeling. This is probably gonna be a lot of interesting builds that revolve around this. It's gonna be very cool. Demon Magus. This is actually a very interesting and cool one. It's going to be a 100 spirit reservation. It's going to allow you to summon a reviving Demon Magus, which casts socketed spells in order. I think there's a lot of ways that this will probably end up getting used, assuming it's good. But just, at first glance, I'm thinking of like curses and stuff like that. You have a Magus that's coming around just auto-casting curses on stuff. There's probably other ways that it'll get used, but it definitely sounds super cool. Can't wait to see what that looks like. With expanding ground, no description here. Hard to say for sure. I'm thinking of like cursed ground, something like you have a skill that goes in the ground. It's going to make it get bigger. Hard to say for sure. We have frozen vortex, a support. This one sounds very cool. Supports any skill that hits enemies, causing it to create a chilling vortex on shattering an enemy. So it's kind of like Herald of Ice almost. But it's going to create like a vortex afterwards that's going to continue to do damage. Sounds very nice. Then we have Hydra Familiar. This is similar to the Demon Magus, kind of, but not quite. But it does sound very, very cool. While active, a companion Hydra will rear up from your body and regularly cast socketed projectile spells at nearby shocked, frozen, and ignited enemies. So obviously it's going to be playing off ailments. When you apply an ailment, I don't know what this is going to look like, but it sounds like it's going to look super cool. You're going to have like Hydra arms come out, and they're going to, throw a frostbolt or whatever you have socketed in there. Super, super dope. The invocation. This is going to be kind of like you're using spells, and that's going to allow you to cast another spell instantly. Pretty simple, pretty cool though. Lightning Storm, I'm pretty sure this was teased for Druid at some point, you know, pretty self-explanatory. Going to create a Lightning Storm. Essence Harvest, recover mana when a minion from supported skills dies. The numbers there, 5 to 50 mana, seem very, very low. Could be wrong, you know, maybe in combination with SRS, perhaps, but, you know, interesting. Pinpoint Critical, similar to Super Critical, but different at the same time. You're going to get, you know, half of your crit chance, or your crit chance is going to be halved, 50% less, and it's going to do 30% more critical damage bonus. I think Super Critical is 20% less crit chance for 100% increased critical damage bonus. So similar, but different, of course. Probably going to be strong, hard to say for sure. Then we have Rolling Magma, very popular leveling skill from POE 1. I think it's not as popular anymore. I think there's like other new methods like Poison Concoction or whatever. But this has been, you know, a staple for leveling in POE 1 for a very, very long time. I was never really a fan of it, but I know a lot of people, you know, once you get used to it, it's very good. Next we have Sacrificial Lamb. This one's basically going to be, you put this into a minion skill, and this is going to make it so that way if you use something to sacrifice minions, it's going to like guaranteed sacrifice these, I believe. So it's kind of cool. You know, could be very valuable for certain like detonate minion setups, since we have that coming as well. Innervation, regenerate mana when you shock an enemy. Seems pretty basic. Doesn't seem like you'd be getting enough mana for like a spark setup to make much use out of this, but you know, obviously the numbers can change, so maybe it will end up being pretty good. Soulbreaker. Basically, when you break Energy Shield, you're going to do a chaos damage explosion around the target. Seems cool. There's not a lot of like Energy Shield mobs in my experience, though, unless like there's a modifier in the map that gives all the mobs Energy Shield. So I'm curious to see where this will fit in. Spreading Frost, supported skills chill enemies in a 2-meter radius when freezing an enemy. Pretty simple. You know, if you had this right now in combination with like the Pulsar Count Ring or whatever, I'm sure it'd be ridiculous. I don't know where it'll fit in the future, though. And of course, we have the other half of Spectre. You have Bind Spectre. This is how you choose which enemy NPC you want to use, and then Spectre is how you're going to actually summon them. They're going to be a 50 spirit reservation each. Little high, but you know, they are likely going to be quite strong. Then we have Greater Lightning Bolt. Not sure if this will be like a Druid or a Sorceress skill. I mean, obviously it can be used by both. Seems pretty basic though, just Greater Lightning Bolt. Moving on, we have some of the skills that I'm the most excited for. Those of you that have been watching me know that I'm super pumped up for the Druid, and we do have some Druid related stuff down here, and some stuff that is definitely hinting towards a wolf or werewolf form, which we'll get to in just a second. Starting off, we have Maul. I'm sure this was teased at some point. Seems pretty basic, you know, just a regular bear swipe attack. Seems pretty cool though, you know, gain rage on hit. All in all, just a regular bear swipe though. Rampage, we've definitely seen this as well. You know, you Uka run along as a bear, you're like doing damage to everything along the way. And then I think you smash the ground at the end, perhaps. Maybe not. But you definitely, you know, you're doing damage based on how much rage you have, etc., etc. Then we have Blade Dance and Blade Nova. Blade Dance, perform a slashing attack that moves you through the battlefield, slicing all around you. This reminds me of Blade Whirl or whatever, or like Whirling Blades. Yeah, I think it was Whirling Blades on POE 1. I don't know if that's what it's going to be, because I don't think they want to have a lot of movement skills in POE 2, but that's just what it sounds like. So we'll have to see. Blade Nova, fire an arc of knives in front of the caster, which deals physical damage. So you're going to throw a bunch of knives out. And then interestingly, this skill and a couple of the other ones has this note of text at the bottom. Leaves a lingering blade in the ground for every projectile fired. Maximum 40 lingering blades can be left in the ground at a time. It's very like, you know, seems like it's implying that there's going to be another skill that comes out later that's going to allow you to like pull the blades back. So you throw them out, they linger around, and then you pull them back. If you've played League of Legends, think Xayah with the feathers. If you haven't played that, you know, bless up, you're doing good. Up next, we have Cast on Block. Very self-explanatory. Cast on Death, interestingly enough, triggers all socketed spells when you die. Not exactly sure how that's going to work, but we'll have to see. Cast on melee kill, cast when damage taken. Cast on melee kill is also actually interesting. You know, we're going to be getting energy when you kill enemies with a melee hit. Seems kind of interesting. We'll have to see how that works. If that's going to maybe help for like clearing in maps or something, I'm not sure. Combo knife throw. This is another one of those skills that's going to leave blades in the ground. Seems pretty simple, like a similar or a simpler version of the Blade Nova. Dodge roll, not really sure what's going on here. I'm assuming this is like just something weird because we obviously already have dodge roll. After that, we have Dominating Aura, and the only description text here is Zoomancer with a little smiley face. So of course, this is going to be something for like the big minion setups. It's probably be some sort of buff, increasing their attack speed or damage, something along those lines. Next, we have a meta skill, Ferocious Roar. You're going to be able to socket Warcry skills in here, and it's going to shapeshift you into a bear and then trigger all of them. Definitely giving them a lot more area of effect and damage, so this seems like it could be quite strong. Next, we have Flame Slice. This is going to be a sword attack, actually. It's going to be a fire-based sword attack, plus 40 to melee strike range. Seems like quite a lot, so this seems like it could be quite cool. And also 140% attack speed, so seems interesting. Probably a placeholder image. Up next, Furious Slam. It's going to be another bear skill. You're going to be, slamming the ground. Pretty basic. Stunning Shockwave after that. So should be pretty cool. Pretty self-explanatory. This is obviously a weird name, but it ends with Herald of Blood. Not 100% sure what that's going to mean. If I was a betting man, I'd say it has something to do with bleeds, more than likely. Kind of like Herald of Plague from POE 1, when you like poison enemies, the little dude goes around and shoots stuff, and I think he gets stronger with, the more poisons you have active or something. Maybe it's something like that. The more bleeds you have active, the more, the stronger your little minion's going to get, and he's going to go around and smack stuff. After that, we have Hyper Slash. No description here. Claw attack. Probably going to be some sort of, very fast attacking claw move. We have Knife Flip. Fires an arc, another one of these, you fire knives out, leave blades in the ground. Fires an arc of knives in front of the caster, which deals physical damage. Sounds the exact same as the one from up top, but maybe it'll be a bit different. Then we have Meta Bow Totem and Meta Spell Totem. Both of these are going to be like, you summon a totem and you put socketed spells in the totem skill, and then it's, the totem's going to be using them. Seems quite cool. There's going to be a lot of customization options there. Then we just have a bunch of like placeholder, like basic attacks, it looks like, with like the different weapons. So nothing really to worry about there. After that, we have Plunging Blade. The description says make a lot of fire. Probably self-explanatory, but it sounds like you're going to maybe stab the ground or something. It's going to create like a wave of lava or something like that. Ring of Blades deals 3 to 5 physical damage. No real description, but based on the image, I'm assuming this is going to be an AoE, either AoE around you, or you're going to like throw it out and it's going to just spin around and do a bunch of AoE damage. Reminds me of Shadow Knives from Last Epoch with the certain way you can set it up, basically. If you played Last Epoch, you might know what I'm talking about. Next we have Shadow Ambush. No clue here, no description. Maybe like a teleport skill. You teleport behind someone, do damage. Then we have Shadow Dash. Same thing, no description. Obviously, it's probably going to be some sort of movement skill. Shadow Thief Slash. Also, no clue with this. This looks like you're going to summon apparitions of yourself, maybe. So we're getting some pretty cool conceptual stuff here. Then we have Shroud. This is actually going to be a stealth. Not sure how this is going to operate in an ARPG. Like, really where you're going to get the value from. If it makes you move faster, that'd be really, really cool. Otherwise, I'm not exactly sure where the value is going to come from, but it sounds cool. You're going to be able to go into stealth. Spinning Flail is going to be a flail attack. Seems kind of like a cyclone, whirlwind, blade storm type of thing, mixed with like whirling blades almost too. You're going to have less movement speed though, so I don't know. But you're going to be moving forward, and at the same time, you're going to be doing AoE damage. Then we have Stormblade. This is going to be a two-handed sword skill, which is pretty interesting. It says Stormblade, but then it says converts physical damage to cold, but, I assume that's a typo. There's no real description here, though, so it's hard to say what this is going to be like. Summon Companion. I believe this is going to be for the Mercenary, the new Mercenary Ascendancy. Seems like you're going to be summoning like a soldier that can help you out. And this is actually, it says, and can be given equipment in the skills panel. It actually reminds me exactly of Animate Guardian from POE 1. You're going to be able to summon up a minion, and then you can actually equip it with like armor and weapons, so you can make it stronger. I don't know if it's going to have that same downside of Animate Guardian in POE 1, where if it dies, you're going to lose all of that equipment. Doesn't sound like it because it's a reviving companion, so hard to say for sure, but definitely similar because you're going to be able to give it, gear and weapons probably. Then we have Summon Wolf. It's going to be another Druid skill. Can't imagine having a Druid without being able to summon wolves, to be honest. It's like a staple for every Druid in every game, pretty much. You're going to have like a pack of wolves following you around. They're going to howl, give you more crit chance. Pretty cool. Then we have Sword Leap Slash. There's another sword skill. Probably going to be for the duelist, I believe, but not much of a description here. Then we have Sword Lunge. Seems like it's basically the same thing as Sword Leap Slash. Then we have Tornado. Creates a tornado that chases enemies for a duration while hindering and repeatedly damaging enemies around it. Probably a Druid skill. Not exactly sure how this is going to work. I mean, it sounds similar to Tornado Shot, but it's obviously going to be different. Like, you're not going to be throwing projectiles into it. Seems pretty cool, like an AoE caster Druid archetype will probably be making use of this. We have Detonation, detonates stuff. Not a lot of a description there. Gas Cloud. I kind of thought we already had Gas Cloud in PoE 2. I might have to go check on that. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Maybe this is going to be something slightly different. Hard to say for sure. Triple Slash combo. It's going to be another sword skill. Volcano. I think we've already had this one teased very recently. Looks like it was teased for like warriors. You're going to slam the ground, create like a volcano that's going to, spew out little fire projectiles. Seems pretty basic, but quite cool. And then the things that are leading me to believe that we're going to have a wolf or werewolf form for Druid are right here all the way down at the very bottom. So firstly, we have Howl. There's not a lot to go off here. It just says, the description is just loud noise. I assume this will be like a buff type skill. And this one, although this also leads me to believe it's going to be like a wolf form, the next one is really what sells it for me. This is a Leaping Claw. Not a claw attack, more like a bite. It's got critical hit chance, which doesn't really sound like a bear thing. That sounds more like a wolf or like a tiger or something. And then deals up to 50% more damage based on the distance traveled. Now, the main reason that it looks like it's going to be a wolf or werewolf form confirmed at this point to me is because of the icon. If you look in the icon here, you can see, I don't think I can actually move my mouse over to it, but the icon here obviously looks like a wolf. And if you look at all of the other Druid skills up at the top that are related to bear, you can very clearly see a bear. So it's pretty obvious that these are going to be, things you're doing while you're in bear form. Definitely leads me to believe that for this Leaping Claw attack, you're going to be in a wolf form, which is super sick. Like I said before, those of you that know that I'm super hyped for the Druid. I'm really, really curious to see what forms it's going to have besides just bear, because I know bear form is probably not going to be like what I want to focus playing on. It doesn't really sound like my favorite archetype of a character, but wolf, werewolf, cat, panther, something like that seems up my alley. So hopefully I'm right. Hopefully this is confirmed going to be a wolf or werewolf, and we will just have to see. Other than that, though, that is going to be all the skill gems here on this page. I will be leaving a link in the description to this exact page if you want to come check these out yourself. This is on the POE 2 database. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed and have fun blasting. Stay hyped for 0.2, my friends. And last but not least, take it easy, chefs. As you fade away, as you fade away.